What's up, guys? Welcome into a Tuesday episode of the Bostonian versus the Book. I'm your host, Matt Peralta. We are live on YouTube and X. We are replayed on Sports Grid Television and wherever you guys get your audio podcasts. Today on the show, the opening line will feature a conversation with Bill Bender from the Sporting News. More on the firing of James Franklin and what comes next in Happy Valley for Penn State. Is it Matt Rule? Is it somebody else? Where are we with a $50 million buyout for James Franklin? Then a study has come out to prove it. Not just what happened on Monday night when the Chiefs somehow had 0 calls against them. How? I don't know. It's now fact through a study. The NFL's got a chief problem, and they have a chief problem with the refs. We'll take a look at that study that came out yesterday in Rolling Stone's article on the impact of sports gambling, littered with lies, half-truths, and just crazy comments about where we are with sports gambling. It was billed as an expose on the industry to take it all down. They used information that nobody knows where they got it from because the numbers are all wrong, and they conflated things like handle and revenue. They don't know the difference. Tough look for Rolling Stone. We'll get to that in a bit, but we start the show with a report that James Franklin and Penn State have a unique contract. There is language that could allow Penn State to not pay $50 million to James Franklin. How, you ask? Well, the university's lawyers were pretty good. This coming from Front Office Sports. Franklin's buyout consists of his base salary of $500,000. That's what he makes as a base. Additional compensation of $6.5 million a year and a $1 million per year life insurance policy coverage between now and the end of the 2031 season, when his deal would have been up, that according to the contract. That amounts to $48 million from now to when the contract was supposed to be ending. He's also owed the rest of that money for this year, bringing the number to the reported $50 million that we've been hearing about James Franklin. But if Franklin gets a job between now and the end of the contract, whether it's in coaching or broadcasting, his new salary will then offset the buyout. In other words, as Front Office Sports wrote, Penn State will have to pay him only the difference between his new salary and the amount of the buyout. If he gets another salary worth more than the terms of the buyout, Penn State owes him nothing. Franklin may even have to reimburse Penn State if the payments have already been made according to the contract. If the Nittany Lions aren't so lucky, they'll have to cough up tens of millions in cash, and it's unclear at this point how they would fund the buyout amid the $700 million in renovations going on right now for Beaver Stadium. But the other clause is that James Franklin has to, in good faith, go and find another job. So I will ask you this. In a poll, which we haven't done polls in a while, let's bring back the polls. Will James Franklin work next season? If you guys can't see that in the chat, let me know, because we haven't bring these back in a while. It's been a couple of weeks, a couple of months probably, for us to be able to do this here with that. If you guys can't see the poll. But this is one of those interesting situations where Penn State and $50 million, the reported $50 million, will he work? Would you work? Would you go into interviews and actively try to get a job in broadcasting and or coaching next year, knowing that you've got $50 million sitting there if nobody will hire you? Oh, it's not visible. Okay, that's interesting. I wondered if that was going to happen because we haven't brought this back up. YouTube made some changes with their streaming. So I was wondering if we were going to have the same problem, if I was going to be able to do polls. Because I used to be able to do it one way and I had to do it this morning. So maybe we can't do that. Maybe I got to go find a different way to do polls. But we'll talk about this coming up with Bill Bender. It's the opening line on the future for Penn State. Wrong one. Hold on. Let's get into it. Bill Bender joining us from the Sporting News here on the Bostonian versus the Book. Bill, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so let's start right there with what's going on with Penn State and James Franklin, and we'll get to the contract and the payout in a second. But when you learned of this news that after the loss to Northwestern, 3 consecutive losses, for Penn State, Oregon, and then the awful loss to UCLA on the road, and then coming home as a 20.1-point favorite against Northwestern and losing. Was it justified that James Franklin lost his job over the weekend?
Hard to say. I still think we're in the emotional decision, phase of this. How emotional was the decision, or how planned out was it? Because you don't do this and pay the buyout, regardless of what that total ends up being, without having a plan for the next guy. I mean, I think Penn State has to look at what kind of program they are. Are they I don't know that they're a national championship every year type program. I think they are more of a playoff contender every year type program. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. And I think people need to realize that. I think, I compared it yesterday, Bill, talking about, I covered Iowa for a bunch of years. And there's people that look at Hawkeye fans that look at their program, and some of them are thinking we should win the Big Ten every year. We should compete for national championships. But others are just sort of like comfortable with, okay, let's go 8-4, go to a bowl game, and we're good. Penn State has people that go back to the 80s and remember that program in the 80s, much like Nebraska does now with the 90s. And they don't realize where they are at the moment in the pecking order in college football. So the idea that I put your story up yesterday on the show where you wrote about the comments from the athletic director talking about we are a national championship contending program every single year. Well, that's not Penn State, right? I mean, Penn State hasn't been a national championship contending program in quite a while.
Right. And I think, when you haven't won a national title in 40 years, there has to be that reality check. Do I think they are a nationally relevant, playoff contender type program? Sure. And they've won 4 Big Ten championships since 1994, and they've been competitive in the Big Ten. And James Franklin, had we been in a 12-team setup, right, they would have been in the playoff every year. So I think that's something to keep in mind when we break down this program and look at it. That said, this year has been an unmitigated disaster. And here's the part when I said emotional, like I was at the Penn State Oregon game 2 weeks ago. I was there and, watched this program nearly beat Oregon, be one bang, bang play away, maybe they score in double overtime, and this whole thing's different. But I couldn't have forecasted when I left that stadium that they would lose to UCLA and Northwestern the next 2 weeks.
All right, so they make the move. They make the change. I think they had no choice. They had to make a change because of what had been going on inside the program. It had become toxic. People were saying fire Franklin before the year even began after what happened in the playoffs last year, and then everything just unraveled. But who is next? Who are the names you are hearing, and how coveted of a job is this for someone to come in and take over Penn State?
I mean, I think it's a really good job. I think, you have resources, you have players, think about some of the players that James Franklin had come through here, whether it was Saquon Barkley or Micah Parsons or, Trace McSorley, maybe not a huge NFL name, but he was a very good college football quarterback. They've had Abdul Carter. So you're going to get talent. The question is, can you do it at a national championship level? Because that's what you're going to be expected to do. I keep circling back to a fact that I've said over and over again this week. With 5 minutes left last year, Penn State was in a tie game in the college football playoff semifinals. 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, Notre Dame wins the game and it goes the way it goes. I think this job is going to attract some very interesting candidates, ranging from Matt Rule to Kurt Signetti, Eli Drinkwitz, Manny Diaz. I'm reading tweets today about Marcus Freeman. They're going to take some big swings. You have to when you make a move like this.
You mentioned it that when you make a change and you have a $50 million buyout hanging over your head, that there has to be a plan. What do you think the plan is? I mean, do they have the desire to hire a coach that currently is working to take over the program? Because, I mean, if you're Matt Rule, can you leave Nebraska in the middle of the season to go coach Penn State?
I don't think you can. I had that posed to me yesterday. Like somebody said, well, he's got to go now because, they have recruiting and those kind of things. And I'm thinking, no, because let's play that out. If he did, let's say Matt Rule left 2 weeks from now, I think the blowback would be far worse than taking the job, especially with Nebraska being 5-1 and in the middle of a college football playoff race.
Yeah, I think it's like if an Urban Meyer took the job, which again, I don't think he's going to, or a Nick Saban, and not going to, but like if you aren't working in college coaching right now and you wanted to go take the job and be the guy in the sky and just let the interim coaches do their thing, evaluate players, evaluate talent, and just get like a 30,000-foot view of the program for the next 2 months, okay, fine. But if you're an active coach, and that's why I'm so confused about the move, you fire James Franklin, justifiably so. But if you don't know who's coming next, aren't you just sort of flushing this season down the toilet? It may be there anyway, but it feels like this is a move where like you better know who's coming next. And if you don't, you could have just waited. I know it gets more and more toxic for James Franklin, but it feels like this move now is a little bit unlike Penn State to fire a coach in the middle of the season. Is that fair?
It is. And it's, you're hearing these coaches weigh in, whether it's Steve Sarkisian or, Greg Schiano's talking about NIL. Mike Gundy did this a couple weeks ago and he got fired. So, I know we constantly try to turn college football into the NFL, but I just made the comparison on the Bobby Carpenter show to Major League Baseball. That's what it feels like. We can have fun and have the leagues, but certain schools have way more resources than others do. And, that's always been that way. I'm not saying it hasn't in college football, but it's going to be this way all the time. And then so the pressures of being, the Rutgers coach or the Virginia Tech coach or the Oklahoma State coach, I think in some ways are far greater than they are at a place like Penn State. And that's what made this firing so weird is like, I'm not shocked by it, like I said, but what do you expect out of your program?
It's national championship or bust in a lot of ways now. I mean, it's to go make a deeper run than last year in the playoffs and frankly, develop quarterbacks. I mean, Drew Aller probably should have gone to the pros. I don't think he would have been drafted highly, but him coming back was a little bit problematic. It laid expectations a bit too high. I mean, being ranked in the top 5 preseason, you're expected to do a lot. Well, Texas and Penn State both have not done a lot with those preseason rankings. If you are looking at this from a big picture perspective, if you're a Penn State fan going forward, what does this signal to you about what the university is going to expect? Because James Franklin was a coach for a long time. I mean, he was allowed to stay there for a very long time. And Pittsburgh, the Steelers, they don't like to fire coaches either. They stick around. Mike Tomlin's been there forever. Is this going to be a revolving door? Because Nebraska did this, and I watched it. I mean, they got rid of Tom, retired. They put Frank Solich in. They fired Frank Solich. And look what's been since they fired Frank Solich. It's been Callahan, Pelini. It's been just as a revolving door. Is Penn State potentially a victim of that in the future?
Well, so one of both ways, right? Like, so I was, full disclosure, I was saying that when this all happened, I'm sure 10 years ago at Sporting News, I probably wrote a very similar column about Mark Richt. And Georgia winning 10 or more games every year. And what do you expect? You're not a national championship caliber program. You haven't won one since Herschel Walker. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Kirby changed all that. He did. Kirby's elevated them to where they feel like they should win every game and get called timeouts when they're clapping, or not called timeouts when they're clapping. Now, we could spend the entire segment on that. But I think that is one, or you go, like you said, the Frank Solich route. Frank Solich coached my alma mater. It was the greatest thing ever for him to come to OU, Ohio University, thanks to Nebraska. And Nebraska, ironically, is still trying to figure it out. So I think it could go that way. You could go the way Michigan did. And when Lloyd Carr was kind of cornered into retirement after losing to App, they were pretty much off the national stage for the better part of 10 years, even in the early Harbaugh era. So it can go right back there. So it's risky. I understand. I don't begrudge a program for like trying to do something more, but understand there are risks when you do that.
So James Franklin, we talked about it in the open. If he gets another job, Penn State might get off the hook of the $50 million, but James Franklin will have to want to work either in broadcasting or coaching next season. There are jobs that already are being linked to him, like Virginia Tech. Do you think James Franklin coaches next year?
If he wants to. He's had a 6'9", 697 winning percent 697. I can say the whole number. It's just by the way, I have 2 kids that say 6-7 every 5 seconds. So I mean, I'm in
my daughter too. Oh
my gosh. So that's why I probably was like, how do I say this? But no, he can coach, right? And I think he would do great at North Carolina. I think if that were to come open, a school like a North Carolina, and not that I'm getting Bill Belichick fired, but that's kind of my way of telling you, I think the Belichick era ends at the end of the season. And a place like North Carolina, does he want to go back to the SEC at a place like Arkansas or Florida? Both very, very possible. And I do think he's a high level coach. He has a way about him, that helps build programs and helps pull people up. And I think he needs to go somewhere where he doesn't have to hear 4-21 against top 10 teams every 5 seconds.
What do you make of Matt Rule not just shutting the door completely, like just coming out and saying, I'm staying at Nebraska, I appreciate it? Does that lead? I mean, Husker fans that I know are freaking out. Like they wanted to hear a full-throated denial that he is going to Penn State.
I talked to Matt Rule about a month ago ahead of that Michigan game, and I remember hearing him say, I walk by all these national championship trophies when I go to my office in the hallway. He knows the expectations there, so he would know the expectations at Penn State. I just can't get away from, and I'm not speaking for him, obviously, the fact that how much that alma mater tug in college football matters. And I could see them pulling him back in. I think he's an excellent coach. If you said Penn State football coach, I would picture somebody like Matt Rule. You know what I mean? Tough, blue collar, all those things pay off there. And the problem is he's going to have Nebraska, I think. But if you look at their schedule, they're probably going to be right in the middle of that playoff push.
2-22, Matt Rule against ranked opponents. His resume doesn't screen that much better than what James Franklin just did. Like, is that the risk here if you're Penn State, that just because you go get somebody from the family that they got to win more than James Franklin did?
Yeah, you're going to hold them to a higher standard. And now, to be fair, it has been pointed out a little bit on social media that a lot of those losses for Matt Rule were in games against when he was with Baylor and Temple. Okay. So like, that's fair. But at the same time, he's been at Nebraska for 3 years now. You want him to beat ranked opponents. And it's not just ranked opponents when you get to Penn State. It's Ohio State. It's Michigan. It's USC. I mean, and they've added Nebraska, USC, Washington, Oregon. You've got to be really good in those games over the next 5 to 10 years. And I still haven't, I don't know about you. You said Iowa. Like, I haven't figured out this new Big Ten yet. I know Ohio State's going to be good every year. As for everybody else, you're subject to travel, schedules, NIL, resources. They're all about the same for, the next tier of Big Ten program that fancies themselves as national championship contenders. So, I was really impressed by USC last week. Is that a moment for them that maybe if they go beat Notre Dame this weekend, they turn a corner a little bit?
The team that always gets forgotten, including myself, is the team ranked third in the polls at the moment in Indiana. Who's the best team in college football? Can you make a case for Indiana?
You can. And I will say this. I have Ohio State 1. Anytime you have a defense that allows 6.8 points per game, hard to argue with that, right? Like, they're complete on both sides. And they have Jeremiah Smith, Julian saying but Indiana took zero hesitation for me to put them number 3 in the poll, behind Ohio State and Miami. Zero, because I think they've got it on the offensive line. Aiden Fisher's part of this really active defense that they have. Fernando Mendoza's been great. The running game's awesome. And then they just take a cue from Curt Cignetti. And I've made the comparison a couple times. He's like Bob Knight, but more likable. Bob Knight, because why? He has critics that really don't like him. But at the end of the day, this dude wins, and he probably beat your team on the way. So he's definitely become one of the most amazing stories in college football the last 2 years.
What do you make of his personality if he were to win, say, a national championship? Like, he is already insufferable to some. He's already known for the line, Google me. What happens if Cignetti actually goes and shocks everybody and wins a national championship at a school like Indiana?
Oh, I'd be the craziest story in college football in my lifetime, maybe ever, if he can actually even get them there. I mean, Washington and TCU were shocking to get to the championship game. Washington less so because you and I think we're around the same age.
Yep.
We've seen Washington win a national title, kind of a split one anyway.
Right.
But TCU was pretty wild to me that Sonny Dykes was able to do that. And this dwarfs that because Indiana's been a Big Ten doormat for the majority of my adult life. And I don't know if any story would top that, honestly.
Can Indiana raise enough money to keep Penn State at bay if they want Cignetti?
If they really want him, they'll take a really good run at him to the point where it'll be difficult to, like the Godfather offer. They'll make it tough for him to say no. But it really comes down to what he wants at 63 years old, because I mean, he could coach at Indiana for 10 more years and he'll still be revered for this run, which is, and that's part of it. And you could make the argument that, he could go to Penn State and be like, wait a minute, I was praised here for going 10-2 and 11-1. I'm sorry, 11-2 last year, probably going to be 11-1 or 12-0 this year. Why would I go somewhere where you just fired a guy who won 10 or more games each of the last 3 years? That's something Penn State's going to have to answer when they interview these coaches, whether it's Drinkwitz or Manny or Matt Rule, whoever. I mean, if I'm a coach, I ask that question. What are you going to do with me if I have one bad year after winning 10 or more games each of the last 3 seasons? And he had like 6 or 7 seasons like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see if Indiana decides to pony up. They're a basketball school. It's where their money is, where their history is, but they do have some donors that may come calling to keep him right where he is, given the expansion, the stadium, what Indiana's seen from a publicity standpoint. I mean, basketball is great, but if you win during football, this is ridiculous. When you see the Big Ten against the SEC, and we've seen these two programs fight over everything right now, including number of teams in the college football playoff, how many Big Ten teams are going to be in the playoff of the 12, do you think? Because the SEC is going to get 4, but how many Big Ten teams are in?
Yeah, I'll answer 2 questions. One of your listeners asked what this helmet is behind me. That's my high school football helmet. That would explain that would explain the bad takes, right? That was many, many years ago. It's basically like a concrete block. And then as for the Big Ten, I think 3 are sure to get in. I think Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, as long as those 3 don't screw it up, they'll all be in the playoff. And then I think you have a chance for a 4th one, but it really hinges on USC a little bit this weekend. Did the Trojans beat Notre Dame? Because the 10-2 USC team would look really good. What about Illinois if they get to 10? They'll have a case despite that blowout. They could say, hey, I mean, we lost to number 3 and number 1.
Right.
It's not that bad. But they're going to need to score a signature victory in there. So I think those are teams to watch. And Michigan.
Okay, I was going to say, where's Michigan in this conversation?
They have to win out now, though, because they have that Oklahoma loss that I don't think a 9-3 team is going to get in the playoffs. So if they were to win out, sure, you let Michigan in ahead of those teams I just mentioned. But I guess it's just, I don't know if they're going to get Ohio State this year. And honestly, I want to see what they do against this Washington team on Saturday before you can move forward with that.
Yeah, they got a big game this week, and I'm with you on that. And then obviously they have Ohio State at home for them, so that's a significant opportunity. But it's Bryce Underwood's a freshman, and it's his first time facing Ohio State and the defense he'll see for Ohio State. I mean, what's the feeling if Penn State goes 8-4? Sorry, if Michigan goes 8-4, how are the Wolverines fans feeling going to next season with the coaching staff and everything going on at Michigan? If Ohio State's the reigning national champs and you don't even make the playoffs the next year,
I don't know if I'd feel good, knowing that Sharon went 8-5 last year. That got glossed over after the finish, right? We don't talk about 8-5. We talk about Ohio State and Alabama to close the season. And if they were 8-4 this year, you're looking at 16-9 over 2 years. I think he would be fine going into next season, but the pressure would amp up. Their schedule's not easy. And there's really, I think the pressure at Michigan is around changing the style. Like you have Bryce Underwood, you hear that phrase, here's another one our kids use, let them cook. And they're not really letting him do that. And I get some of it is he's a freshman, but man, there's a live arm there, a lot of talent. They've got to find some receivers around him, maybe change the way that they do some things offensively, because their defense, as was shown Saturday, is just not as good.
Get Eder in this, Bill. I know you got to run for another hit, but when you look at the SEC, who's the best team in the SEC?
I still think it's Alabama. And I was looking at some of their stats this morning, being third in pass offense and 14th in rush offense. The defense is pretty good. The physicality is shown since that first loss against Florida State. But I just think because they're going to be favored the rest of their games, if they get by Tennessee, who I think Tennessee will test them with that pass offense. You know, the Vols have a little bit of confidence going into that game now, but I just don't see them losing at least until the SEC championship game. And as they continue to march on, Kalen DeBoer, I don't know if last time I was on your show, I don't know if we buried him last time I was on here, but we did. We certainly buried.
Yep,
Guilty. And now look at him. I mean, they've probably got the steadiest thing going in the SEC. I like Ole Miss. I love this Ole Miss Georgia game this weekend. It's going to be highly entertaining.
Alabama Auburn. The Iron Bowl is going to be very, very interesting. Don't sleep on the Tigers. Auburn may have something for Bama coming up here in the Iron Bowl after what happened with Georgia and that. I mean, there's been bad referee games, but then there's that game with Georgia and Auburn fans still have a right to be furious as to what happened in that game with the 17-0 getting wiped off the board, the timeout. Have you ever seen anything like that? I should ask you that first.
No.
Have you ever seen anything like that where a coach is able to convince a referee crew that he wasn't calling timeout?
No, it was very bizarre. And obviously, Georgia, I spend a lot of time around some NFL conspiracy theorists that are my friends. That had a little bit of that look, but I thought Jackson Arnold scored. I thought he was definitely calling a timeout, and this is why we love college football, because we spend all Sunday talking about it.
Bill, thanks for the time. We'll do it again soon. All right.
Hey, anytime. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
That is Bill Bender from the Sporting News joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book. Great to get him on talking college football, Penn State, and more here on BVB. Again, that was my number one, I don't want to call it my favorite thing for the weekend, but what the heck was that timeout, no timeout conversation involving Georgia and Auburn? And yes, I was on Auburn +4. And yes, Gunnar Stockton should have gone down. Regardless, it was still ridiculous. Let's talk about what happened last night. Well, what happened last night, the Commanders fumbled away the game. No rain. Jaden Daniels, I don't know what that was last night. Up by 2, driving. I laid 5 with the Commanders, so I'm thinking I got to push because you're going to get into field goal range. You're on the plus side of the 50. And the fumble gives the ball right back to the Bears, who then march down the field and have a game-winning kick to win the game by 1. The Commanders lose. The Cowboys lose. The Eagles lose. The Giants win. That is the current state of the NFL at the moment. It's a little bit of a mess. Who is good? Who is not? We don't really know. Because in the first game, Bijan Robinson went nuts, like I thought he would, and why I took the home dog Falcons. And I thought that line was a little bit fishy. Looking at the line move, opening at 5 and then 4 and then 3.5. And everybody in the public was running to bet the Bills. But the respected money, the master money, if you want to call it that, and that's what Adam Bjorn, who, by the way, will come on Thursday's program. We'll do Bet Chris Arizona Thursday this week. He calls it the master money, all on the Falcons. Bills are 4-2. And the Bills wake up this morning to the worst possible thing that they have not had to endure in quite a long time. And that's the Patriots being in first place. Patriots are in first place in the AFC East. 4-2 Patriots, 4-2 Bills. But that Bills defense is bad. It's bad. And the Bills are asking Josh Allen to do way too much. If you are a Bills fan, you can't not look at your team and say, okay, at what point does Josh Allen have to throw and catch the ball on the same play? Because that's essentially what they're asking last night. No Dalton Kincaid. He was out. The Bills have been utilizing their tight ends for quite a while, but they don't have a true number one. Stephon Diggs was their last true number one wide receiver. And so, I mean, Stephon Diggs and Max Hollis, both former Bills, are both on the Patriots right now, catching balls from Drake May. Look at the receiving core. I love Shakir. I mean, Shakir is a good receiver, but he's a possession guy. They don't have a home run hitter. They don't have somebody that's going to take the top off the defense, really. They have a bunch of possession guys, and they have Josh Allen. They have a superstar quarterback, yes, but neither running back was effective last night. The Falcons knew what to do to take away the running game and make Josh Allen throw, so Josh Allen was running around all night, throwing, running left, throwing right, gets the ball tipped, gets intercepted, game over, Falcons win. I don't like Michael Penix, but I love Bijan Robinson, and Bijan was tremendous. And when you have the Falcons at home against a team that can't stop the run, you have to back the Falcons. You have to. Like, they're just going to be very difficult at home. On the road, they're a different team. They went to the Panthers and got shut out 30-0. They're a different team on the road. They're exactly they're very similar to the Panthers. The Panthers at home can beat, probably half the league or more when they play them at home. On the road, they can't really beat anybody. Like, they're just not good. If the Panthers beat the Jets this weekend in New York, Aaron Glenn, first-year coach or non-first-year coach, you have to fire him. He's done. Like, this is a layup for the Jets this weekend against the Panthers. You have to win this game coming up this weekend against the Panthers. The Jets are awful, but the Panthers are worse on the road. So watch for that. But the Falcons at home are a tough team to play. On the road, though, especially in an outdoor, colder environment situation, no. But the Bills being 4-2, they have a first-place schedule. The Patriots have a last-place schedule, and that should really be concerning if you're a Bills fan. Not because the Bills are behind the Patriots, because I do think the Bills still are overall, when healthy, a better team than the Patriots, because the Pats are just really young. Talk to me in December, but in October, I would say the Bills are a better football team. The Patriots play the Titans this weekend to go to 5-2. They go 5-2. They've got home games coming up against teams like the Falcons that they should win. The Patriots' next 6 games, they should go at worst 4-2 over the next 6 games. They go 5-1. They're 9-3. How many losses are the Bills going to have this year? Because the Bills have a first-place schedule. When you play a first-place schedule, you have to deal with some really difficult opponents. And the Bills are playing the Chiefs after they play the Panthers next week. They play the Panthers on the road. Again, Panthers are a difficult team at home versus on the road. And they're home for the Chiefs. If they somehow lose to the Panthers, which I don't think they're going to, but they could lose to the Chiefs at home, given what the Chiefs might be able to do going forward, getting Rashid Rice back and having Xavier Worthy now. You got 2 weapons. You have a halfway 75% of what Kelsey used to be, but still you have Kelsey on the field. Then they play at the Dolphins. That should be a win, but they're home for the Bucks. You got Baker coming in. That's not fun. You're at the Texans and at the Steelers. Okay. Games that are not layups. Those are going to be tough games for them. They play the Bengals, fine, but then they play at the Patriots on the 14th of December. They have the Browns, Eagles, and Jets to end the year. That should be a 2-1 market. That probably should be a 3-0 mark, depending on what the Eagles look like late in the year. But the Eagles on the 28th, I mean, that is a very difficult schedule if you're looking at the Bills going forward, and you can't feel good about that, especially when the Patriots play the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons at home. They go to the Bucks. That's a loss, but then the Jets at home, then the Bengals, then the Giants at home. I mean, these are winnable football games for the Patriots. Like, there's a reason why the odds are shifting dramatically, like really shifting dramatically against the Buffalo Bills to win the AFC East. And there's got to be some real concern right now in Buffalo about the defense and the offense after now a 4-2 mark. Got off to a good start. They're now 4-2. Both the Eagles and the Bills, I think, are both having very similar conversations. I like the roster way more in Philadelphia than I do in Buffalo. But I like the quarterback way more in Buffalo than I do in Philadelphia. But both those teams, you might say they're 4-2. But there's a different type of 4-2. There's a Patriot 4-2 where you're feeling good about where the team is, and everyone's saying, how'd this team lose to the Steelers at home and the Raiders at home? How did you blow those games? Well, fine. I mean, the Pats had 5 turnovers in that game against the Steelers, should have won that game, and they played like crap against the Raiders. It was the first game of the year. It was the first game with Josh McDaniels. First game with Mike Vrabel. Okay, it wasn't good. But if they played that game today, Patriots win that game. They're getting better every week, getting better and better and better. And that's going to be a very big concern. Big concern for the Bills, for the Eagles, for teams that are used to being at the top. There are some younger teams on the way up. On to baseball. The Mariners are up 2-0 in the ALCS after smoking Toronto yesterday in Game 2. Both Game 1 and Game 2 on the road. The Mariners win. The Mariners are going back home to Seattle. They are 4-0 in Toronto now all time in the postseason for the Mariners. They like playing at Rogers Center. And they just pounded an offense not known for scoring double digits, put up double digits on the Toronto Blue Jays, who then have to go to Seattle for that long trip to the Pacific Northwest, knowing what's waiting for them and that pitching staff for Seattle and the bullpen for Seattle. And we know they pitch much better at home. We know they hit better at home. I hate to declare a best of 7 over, but when the road team wins Game 1 and Game 2, that's a really bad situation for the team having to go on the road for Game 3. It's the same story tonight for the Brewers, who are in an absolute must-win situation, given what the Dodgers did. They got the insurance run in the top of the 9th, and that was enough to hold off a charging Brewers team that left the bases loaded in the bottom of the 9th inning in a 2-1 loss to the Dodgers. We'll see what tonight looks like. We'll see if the bullpen for the Dodgers gets exposed a bit. Yamamoto, we'll talk about more in a little bit. Yamamoto has not pitched well against Milwaukee this season. And you've got Freddie Peralta, who's been the best starter at home for the Brewers. I mean, this is a must-win game. They're throwing their ace. They're throwing a guy who has not been hit much at home. Game screams an under unless the offense gets rolling for the Brewers and they just pound out 8-9 runs themselves against the bullpen. Because my gut tells me that Dave Roberts says, we got what we needed. I don't want to burn out the bullpen for the rest of the series. So if I've got to go and have somebody wear one, somebody can wear one. Remember what happened in the last series with Clayton Kershaw coming in, and he made Kershaw wear it because they wanted to spare the bullpen and they put him out there. And I think Kershaw gave up 5 runs in that game to Philadelphia. So let's see. That's a fun stat. Baruch is 12-0 on home games on Tuesdays. Means nothing, but that's fun. I hope you're right on that. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean it's a wrap. I agree, Ish. It's a wrap. On that. It's an absolute right. That's true though. On the paper, back to the Patriots. That's true. That was Pete Carroll's first game with the Raiders. That's true. But it was Geno Smith, who tends to play pretty well against the Patriots. He's got to have the Patriots number, but. I'll be very curious to see the energy in the building tonight for Milwaukee after what happened yesterday, because that got going late, had the feel of one of those late game. They're going to steal it, and then they struck out with the bases loaded. That was a bummer. The guy at the plate, I forget who was at the plate. He could have been hit. The ball was thrown so far inside. He moved the back leg, left-handed hitter whose name is escaping me, but if he didn't move his leg, he gets hit. You gotta stand there and take it, man. You gotta take that, because that's a 2-2 ball game. Can change the whole season. I know your brain. It's hard to tell your brain to take Durang. Thank you. It's hard to tell your brain to do that, to take a ball that's moving at 80 miles an hour off your body. I totally understand that. Like, I'm not sure I could do that. I'm not sure if I could tell my brain to just sit there, but at some point, you just got to take it. Just take it for the team. You just got to wear it. Hope it doesn't cause an injury of some sort. Just take it, because it's a 2-2 baseball game. I'm not saying you win the game, but it's 2-2. The building's rocking. You still have another guy. Bases are loaded. You could have won that game. I mean, that one pitch could have cost the bullpen, could have cost the game. And that's why I don't really like the Dodgers right now going into Game 2, because of that bullpen for the Dodgers. And if Yamamoto gets up and gets into trouble and they got to go into that bullpen early in the game tonight, that's tough. Yes, 100%. 100%. Yes. I don't have a Dodger hat, Fish Killer. I don't have one. I wish I did. I don't have one. I don't have a Dodger hat. So, but yeah, I yelled, wear it. Absolutely. I mean, if you're on the Brewers money line like I was, absolutely. We were like, oh my gosh, that pitch was right there. Just stick your foot out and get hit. Just stick your, the meaty part of your thigh. Like, just take the baseball off something that's not going to hurt all that much. But again, who am I to sit here on my couch talk about this? It's just, it's unbelievable. So we'll get to more on game 2 for the Dodgers and the Brewers here in just 1 second. But I want to bring this up because this is fascinating. So I have endured the better part of 15 years listening to Chief fans talk about their championships and how they've done it the right way and how everyone just complains about the referees and complains about the NFL, and there's no justification for it. There's no proof that anything nefarious had been going on involving the referees and the Chiefs and the NFL. Well, wouldn't you know it? A study comes out yesterday from UTEP that is presenting evidence that the Chiefs have benefited from officiating not just 1 year, starting back in 2015, all the way to 2023, a time that coincided with the Chiefs' rise to become one of the most marketable franchises in the NFL. I have sat through, listened, and debated this topic for so long. Monday night, the Chiefs had 0 calls made against them because the NFL needs Patrick Mahomes and the KC Chiefs to be relevant. Why? Because the biggest pop star in the world is engaged to a tight end. That the viewership when Taylor is there goes up. And if the Chiefs suck, that's really bad for business. How do we know this? Wouldn't you know it? They went and did the study. They did the study. Here is directly from the article that was written about this study. Woody L. Hunt College of Business, UTEP's professor, Spencer Barnes, PhD, assistant professor of finance, quote, our findings suggest that when the league's financial health is at stake, rule enforcement may subtly shift to protect market appeal. The fact that postseason penalties consistently favored one franchise, while similar dynasties showed no such pattern, points to the powerful role of financial incentives in shaking supposedly neutral decisions. This is a guy from Texas, West Texas, not Dallas, not Baltimore, not Buffalo, and sure as shit, not Boston. The study shows that during the playoffs, which the research team identified as the NFL's most commercially valuable period, no kidding, penalties against opposing defenses of the Chiefs' offense were significantly more likely to result in first downs, cover more yardage, and fall into subjective categories such as roughing the passer or pass interference. Nobody is shocked by this but Chief fans. Everyone knows this to be fact. This has been straight in our face for years. Years. But it gets better. It gets better. Importantly, these effects were absent from the Tom Brady era, New England Patriots, and other recent Super Bowl contenders, suggesting the phenomenon is unique to Kansas City's emergence as a television ratings powerhouse, the study found. So we now have factual evidence that the NFL has been favoring the Chiefs for financial gain, that the referees have been in the tank for the Chiefs, that the NFL calls are blatant. It's not just something the Bills fans have complained about. It's not just things that the Patriot fans have complained about. Not just things about other teams in the league have complained about. In Super Bowls, in the playoffs, the referees now, through a in-depth study, have been proven to be favoring the KC Chiefs. This, Spencer said, may be the result of financial pressure on the league stemming from the sharp decline in TV viewership and ratings during the 2015 through 2017 seasons, just before Mahomes became the Chiefs' starting quarterback. Those seasons were marked by controversy over racial issues, most notably San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem to protest police brutality and racism. The implications extend beyond football, the research team says. The study draws parallels to financial markets, corporate governance, and regulatory agencies where dominant players may enjoy advantages not because of explicit corruption, but because institutions under pressure adapt to preserve stability and revenue. Quote, this research not only deepens our understanding of sports governance, but also illustrates a larger societal concern. When financial pressure weighs heavily, impartiality can erode. Spencer's work demonstrates the power of academic inquiry to reveal hidden dynamics that affects fairness, competition, and trust in institutions. You can take your Deflategate, you can take your Spygate, and you can shove that where that sun don't shine, because that is way more damning than any smashed cell phone, inflated fake football story, or whether or not the Patriots taped anything that was already legal to be written down and they put it on film. One or two situations, 2 or 3 stories. This is 8 seasons in which there is now evidence that the refs have been in the pockets of the Chiefs, and we don't have to say it's a conspiracy theory any longer. This is no longer, I wonder. I wonder if this happened. No, now there's a study where there's evidence to back it up that Chiefs needed calls. The league needs more revenue. The league gets the revenue because the Chiefs are going and winning, and it helps everyone. And the referees are the ones doing it. Even the study says it's not a direct A to B corruption story. It's not like Roger Goodell picks the phone up and calls the referees and say, hey, change that call. The refs just know it. It was the same story involving Tim Donaghy. When Tim Donaghy was talking about what the NBA needed, nobody told the referees in the NBA what to call. The refs just knew it, because you would assume, as a naturally thinking human being, this is what has to happen for the league to be successful. And if you do this, hey, guess what? You get more opportunities. The league gives you bigger games. The league gives you Super Bowls. If you're the one that's doing what the league likes, the league has different ways to show you that they like it, that they appreciate what you are doing. So we protect Patrick Mahomes at all costs. If you breathe on Patrick Mahomes, flag. Even if you don't breathe on him, if it looks like you're going to breathe on him, flag, roughing the passer. If it looks like Travis Kelce got touched by a receiver, flag, 100%. Over and over and over again. Okay? This is really interesting to see how this went down and what the NFL will do with this study. Will they do anything with it? Okay? Will they acknowledge it? Will they talk about it? Will they investigate it? Because generally speaking, the NFL does not like this type of story to exist, because this is bad for business. This is bad for everyone. Absolutely bad for everyone in the league. But if you're a rival, if you're the Raiders, if you're the Broncos, if you're the Chargers, how are you not bringing this up every time it's Raider Chief Week? If I'm here in Vegas, if I'm Pete Carroll, I'm bringing this up right now. I'm saying, hey, we're going to Arrowhead. Hey, to the league office, we can't see this happen. It's right there that this happened on Monday night. The Chiefs, who have had so many offside penalties for their offensive linemen, have had holding penalties like crazy. They had no penalties. 0, none, no penalties. How's that possible? How is that possible? Oh, that's right. We need the Chiefs to be back at 500. Okay, I forgot about that. Yeah, we need them to be competitive because they can't continue to lose. They can't be a bad team, because if that happens, then we're in trouble, because the Bills are looking shaky. So Josh Allen, shoot, that's not good. Patrick Mahomes, shucks, that's not good. What do we do? Again, I'm not saying the league is picking up the phone and making phone calls and changing the outcome, but this is all the evidence you need now. This is an in-depth study over multiple years showing the Chiefs get all calls when they need it. In particular, in the playoffs, they get the calls when they need it. Now, there's a flip side to get into this, and somebody once said this to me before, saying, well, hold on, just bet on the Chiefs then. True. I bet the Chiefs this weekend. Yes, I made money on KC winning and covering this weekend, 100%. So there is a way of making money on this. If there's a big game and the Chiefs need a call, you're going to get it. That's the way to bet it. That's the way to use it for your advantage. Go ahead and take it. Yes. So always bet on the Chiefs. Yep. 100%, PB. That's what I would do. I'd bet on the Chiefs. This is JC McKC. You're wrong. You can't play that line anymore, that the KC Chiefs are this small market team for the middle of the note. No, you can't play that line anymore. They're one of the most profitable franchises in the league, and they are responsible for the number one most watched games whenever they play in primetime and Taylor shows up. Okay? Like they're not just like little engine that could. Patrick Mahomes is the number one or top 10 jersey guy every single year. Travis Kelce now is right there with him. Okay. It goes to the conspiracy that Kelce and Taylor Swift were put together for ratings. I'm not saying that's true, but it goes, this is now the next stage to the conversation. How did that arrangement happen? How did that marriage go down? Because it sure as hell been profitable. I mean, look at the ratings, look at the numbers, look at her exposure to football fans, look at his exposure to Taylor Swift fans, look at the relationship, look at the music, look at the tour, everything else that's gone into this. She's got a 6-part documentary series coming out where Travis is all over it, that Disney Plus will have coming up, I think next month it comes out, from the Eras tour. She had the number one album and the number one movie simultaneously. Okay. Now, is that because of sports fans? No, but it is something that's there. Yes, this hurts their legacy 100%. It basically shows it's fake. It's basically shown that it's corruption. Okay? That it basically shows that the league has been in the tank for the Chiefs for 8 years. Since 2013. This is not a quick thing. It's going between the years of, going back from 2013 to 2023 or 2015 and 2023. It's 8 years. This is going on. It's not short. Okay. After the 2015, 16, and 17 seasons, there were a lot of things happening. But the most article or a paragraph in the article is that, importantly, these effects were absent from the Tom Brady era New England Patriots and other recent Super Bowl contenders, suggesting the phenomenon is unique to Kansas City's emergence as a television ratings powerhouse. What happened last year in the Super Bowl? Oh, that's right. The Chiefs got their asses kicked. The refs couldn't do anything about that because it was a blowout at the blink. Eagles took the referees out of that, saying, no way. We're not letting the refs come into play. We're going to smash and make sure that there's no questions. There's no calls. There's nothing that might go one way or the other. You know who should be the biggest, most pissed off fan base after all of this? The Bills. Like, this is if I'm a Bills fan, I'm irate at this. I am steaming mad that this study came out. This should be like required reading material for everyone in the city of Buffalo and every Bills fan, because you can't get past the Chiefs. You haven't been able to get past the Chiefs. And now there's some evidence as to why you haven't been able to get past the Chiefs. A lot of it has been stacked against you. A lot of it just, yeah, I get it. Make your own breaks. That's fine. But I don't think the NFL Network will touch this. I don't think anybody but in the cities of Baltimore and Buffalo and New York and anyone that is a football fan that's watching this going, huh. So now we have a study that's been done, not by some biased institute in the city of Boston. Like if MIT did this or if Harvard did this, people would be like, get out of here. It would be, this is UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso. This is okay. So, read the study, but that is fascinating. Game 2 tonight for the Dodgers and the Brewers. This is an absolute must-win game. Yamamoto is going tonight for the Dodgers. Freddie Peralta going on the other side. Freddie Peralta has been just the guy for this team at home. And when you need someone to have a must-win game, there's nobody else I'm handing the ball to than Freddie Peralta for the Brewers. He has a 1.77 ERA, a 9-1 record at home, opposing batting average of 192. He's thrown 91 2/3 innings worth of work at home in Milwaukee and given up 18 earned runs in those games. There's nobody else you'd want to throw. He's been okay though in the playoffs. The Cubs got him badly in his last start. 4 innings, 3 earned runs. His first start against Chicago, a 5 2/3 performance with 2 earned runs, but 2 solo shots he gave up in there at home. But the team scored 9 runs and then won the game 9-3. Yamamoto is a different story, however, because his only start against Milwaukee was bad. I mean, like horrible. His ERA is 40. I'm not kidding you. He has a 40.5 ERA against Milwaukee. Why? 1 game, 1 start. He did not get out of the first inning. He got 2 outs and gave up 3 earned runs and 5 runs total, 4 hits, 571 opposing batting average. Very small sample size. In the playoffs, he's been okay. He was good against Cincinnati, 6 2/3, no earned runs. In the loss to the Phillies in his last start, 4 innings, 3 earned runs, 6 hits, a home run, a walk. Wasn't good. Team lost the game 8-2. That probably needs to be the final score here tonight for the Brewers. They need timely hitting. They need to get into the bullpen early, and they got to give the fans something to cheer about because in the 9th inning, that building was alive. Like people were jumping up and down, and it was loud. But they need to score early. I am scared because if the Dodgers do what the Mariners did, which is win game 2 and go up 2-0 going home, I think this could be a sweep. If the Brewers win this game and it's 1-1, well, game 3 becomes incredibly pivotal, and the Dodgers going home, they've got a little pressure on them. But the Dodgers have not been a good team on the road this year. They've been a great team at home. So I'm very concerned about what happens in game 3 if this thing is a win for LA tonight in game 2. I don't think we have one of those weird series where the road team wins every game. I don't think that's going to happen. So Ohtani most likely is going to be on the mound in game 3, which, okay, that's 5, 6, 7 innings for Ohtani. Good luck if you're the Brewers. So it's all hands on deck. Everything has to go right tonight. They have to win tonight. They have to do everything in their power. Pat Murphy has to push every button. This is a game 7 to me. I mean, this is sort of a game 7, given what you know you're facing when you get to LA. So you gotta get after it. Like the Brewers have to win this game tonight. And if they don't, it could probably be, that's it. All she wrote for Milwaukee. I can't even hedge off my ticket, my 26-1 ticket on the Brewers. I can't even hedge off of it because, well, the Dodgers are minus 450 to win the series. They were 250 before last night. And that's why I was like, okay, let's pray for the Brewers. I bet the Brewers. It was a bit of a mistake. I probably should have bet the Dodgers in game 1, knowing I had that ticket. So that was a mistake for me. But yeah, if the Brewers win this game and it's 1-1, I'll be curious if it goes back to 250 or if I get $2. Because if I get $2, I'm going to hedge. I just need this to get back to a 1-2 situation. $2.50 was too expensive, but $2 I'll hedge because I want to make a little bit for my time to guarantee that I think the Brewers are going to lose this series. I hope I'm wrong, but I think the Brewers are going to lose this series. We'll make some picks on the other side in bonus time. If you guys are watching on the replay on Sports Grid, thank you for being here. Thanks to Bill Bender from the Sporting News to join us today talking Penn State and college football. If you guys are with us live on YouTube or on X, Twitter, or you're listening on the podcast, don't move. Bonus time starts now. Vic says, I have the Brewers in LA and a little something, something. Watch the Mariners take everyone's money. Yep, that's possible. Dodgers having a gentleman's sweep is possible, but I think if the Dodgers lose tonight and it's 1-1, it's series on. Okay. It's definitely on. If it's 2-0, see you later. That's it. See you later. It would be done. JC from KC, aren't the start times already set for the World Series? Isn't it like the NBA Finals? It's scheduled like a TV show, so it doesn't matter where the teams are. That if you're, it's like an 8 p.m. start time regardless. So it would be 5 o'clock on the West Coast. I could be wrong about that. I don't think you could start the World Series at 9 o'clock Eastern time. I don't think that would destroy the ratings. I'd be very surprised if they wound up doing that. That seems to be too late. Let's make some bets. All right, just the picks. I just kind of laid it out. Brewers money line. I mean, it's plus money. It's a must win. I bet it yesterday. 2-1 loss. I think if the game stays under, the Dodgers win. I think this game's got to go over. It's 7, and most books now. It was 7.5 this morning. People are betting the under. So the books are going to need the over. And I think if the Brewers win, we need, 8-2 type final. Something along those lines. We need a higher scoring game for this to happen. So I'll be very curious to see how Yamamoto does. If it's early and the Dodgers are having to go into that bullpen because Yamamoto can't get to the 4th inning, that's how you win this game. Get to Yamamoto, get him off the mound, get into that bullpen. Let's see what Dave Roberts does because he could punt the game late. If it's like a 5-2 in the 7th inning, Dave Roberts could very well do what he did when, I forget which game it was. It was which game against the Reds? When did he put Kershaw into the game and just because it wasn't the Phillies. I think it was the Reds where Kershaw just got lit up. I think it could be that type of situation where they just have somebody out there to wear one to get to game 3 because you got what you needed. You split, you did what you need. You took home field. What you got in game 1, what you're looking for. And now we're going to game 3 in LA. Brewers money line at plus 105. I like Vegas in regulation here tonight up against Calgary. Aiden Hill should be in net for Vegas. Let me see if we've made an official announcement for who's starting in net tonight for Vegas. Does not say yet, but it's going to be Dustin Wolf for the Flames for sure. He's 1-2 with a goals against average of 4. Aiden Hill hasn't been great so far. Schmidt, the backup's been okay, but I think Vegas gets the win. They're 1-0-1 on the road here at home. Calgary is 0-1. Vegas has played well historically against Calgary. The offense has gotten off to a very good start for Vegas. The defense has not. Vegas has gone to overtime in 3 straight games. A shootout loss to the Kings, an overtime win against San Jose, and an overtime loss up against Seattle. I can't see it for a 3rd straight game, so you get some decent prices here, even money on the Golden Knights in regulation. That price is now, I can't see where that price is, but somewhere it's up to 170. So you're probably going to lay a little juice on this with Vegas in regulation, but I like the Golden Knights in regulation tonight. If you want a college football play, South Alabama and Arkansas State tonight. This is a weird game. So these teams are generally offensive, not juggernauts, but they tend to score a lot, and their defenses aren't that good. So you would think that when 2 good offenses and 2 bad defenses meet up again, we're going to get points, right? Well, that's not what's happened historically. The last 4 games between these 2 teams have gone way under, and these teams have been pretty much over the last decade under machines. 7-3 to the under over the last 10 meetings between these 2. As I said, 4 straight games. And most often we're talking about 60, 61, 62 type point totals, and they're going way under. Last year it was 62.5, and the final score was 18-16. So everyone's thinking over, and we don't get this in Mobile. We get an under for Arkansas State in South Alabama. That game kicks off at 7:30 p.m. tonight on ESPN2. Under 59. It's 58 now. Okay, Butchie, thank you. So we're down to 58. So I've got 1.5 points of closing line value on this, but thank you. Hill and Wolf are confirmed in net. Thank you, Butchie. Appreciate that. Under 59.5 for South Alabama and Arkansas State. I'm glad we're doing this in bonus time because news of the industry, this article that came out from Rolling Stone, what the holy hell was it? News of the industry, Rolling Stone's article on sports betting, lies, half-truths, and just made-up reporting to make sports gambling look bad. It came out on Sunday, in case you missed it. The headline, there's now a casino in everyone's pocket. For some young men, it's a near fatal gamble. Americans gamble $150 billion through online sports books last year. Far too many lost nearly everything. 2 different writers wrote this. Leave it to our guy, Jeff Edelstein from ingame.com to take this apart line by line. Rolling Stone's sports betting expose is riddled with lies. Here's proof. Rolling Stone conflated handle with revenue, inverted statistics, let false claims stand, and then called it journalism. Get a load of this, okay? He lays it out lie by lie. Lie number 1. The authors state the following, and this is straight from Jeff's article. The authors state the following. 8 years ago, Americans placed around $5 billion in sports bets. Last year, that number zoomed to nearly $150 billion. By 2028, we'll have bet and lost $1 trillion since 2018, as Jeff writes. Nope. Here, the authors are conflating handle with revenue. To date, since the fall of PASPA, total regulated handle is nearly $500 billion, according to in-game intel. In total revenue, i.e., total amount bettors have lost, a little less than $48 billion. So sure, total PASPA handle could be $1 trillion by 2028, with total losses coming in at around a whopping $100 billion, which is a lot of money, but not $1 trillion. You're claiming Americans are going to lose $1 trillion. $100 billion and $1 trillion. They're crazy numbers, but they're a really big difference. They're a really, really big difference. As he wrote, I put whopping in quotes because according to a study from the Siena College Research Institute in St. Bonaventure University, some 22% of Americans have an online sportsbook account. That's about 75 million people, which means that by 2028, each of those people will have lost on average $1,333 over the 10 years post-PASPA. Another way to put that, each person with an online sportsbook account will lose on average $133 a year betting on sports. A fucking year. $133 a year. How many of you lost $133 on Saturday? Because I did. More than that. So what are we doing? Are you kidding me? This is what we're worried about? This is the destruction of sports betting in America. This is the takedown of the modern American male because he's going to lose $133 a year. I mean, what are we doing? What's the bar tab you had last weekend? What's the tab you had at Buffalo Wild Wings? What's the tab that we had when Covey and I were sitting at Durango on Sunday? What was the tab? Because we were there for 4 hours eating and drinking. Are you kidding me? This is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense that Rolling Stone is this stupid. And I like Rolling Stone. How about you stay the fuck away from gambling? Stop writing about this stuff. It's been clickbait for too long. It's low-hanging fruit, but you guys are idiots. You don't know what you don't know. So stop writing about shit that you don't know about. How do you miss that? That's some serious fucked up math to miss that, to not go ahead and drop that down. Yes. What's the amount of money per year lost on chasing women for the average American male? Yup. 100%. SoCal DGen. If I only lost $133 a year, that's a good year. Hell yeah, dude. Right? What are we doing? $133 has people getting upset. It gets worse. Lie number 2. According to a guy who is quoted in this story, his name is, let me make sure I get the right personality. His name is Levitt in this. So he's not one of the writers. Levitt is, and I did read this article, but my brain's not working at the moment. He's quoted in the piece as saying, quote, the following. He's an addiction specialist. Every addictive product has regulation. Why is this the only one without them? Nobody corrected this. Guys, do we think that sports gambling is unregulated? I mean, seriously, that was said in a piece in a nationally released piece that nobody checked to see if they knew what they were talking about. You think sports gambling is unregulated? I'm not talking about cow sheep bullshit, okay? I'm talking about sports betting. Sports betting is extremely regulated, like high-level regulation. Every operator has to have a state-by-state licensing that causes extensive proctology exams into every single person that's working in the book. You are fingerprinted. You are background checked. They go through all sorts of your audits. They take your bank account records. They want to know everything about you. They use geolocation technology to find out where you are, what jurisdiction. You must be 21 plus. You must have a license and a social security number in order to sign up. Can you get around that? Sure, there's ways around it, but it's not like it's unregulated. My 11-year-old daughter can't go and download DraftKings and start betting. It doesn't work like that. Okay? That is not what happens. The idea that sports gambling is unregulated is insane. That you would let that go and write that and not have that there. Marketing is prohibited. Betting itself, they can ban you. They can ban you, or they can ban certain types of bets. You can be kicked out. You could be limited. What do you mean it's an unregulated space? That's crazy. And they let it lie. They just let it be there, and they did not correct it. And then finally, for the third lie, talking about underage gambling, the authors write, quote, underage boys pressed their parents to open accounts, often linking to dad's ID and banking info, critics claim, or they superstitiously open accounts without their parents' knowledge, as teens have done with verbatim vices since the dawn of time. Okay, one, if you're not of age, as Jeff writes, you can't open an account. You need a social security number, a driver's license, often a picture. Is it possible that some enterprising 14-year-old can figure out a way around this? I guess it's possible, but come on, it ain't happening regularly, as anyone who's tried to sign up for a regulated online sports book can attest. Then there's the bit where underage boys press their parents to open accounts. That is not in any way, shape, or form an online sportsbook problem. It's a parental problem. Some parents buy booze for their teenagers. Some parents buy pot for their kids. Some parents let their kids bet on sports. It's a parental problem, aka or choice, not a sportsbook problem or a liquor company problem. If you want to give your 18-year-old booze, you're a parent. Do what you want. Could you get in trouble? Yeah. If your kid goes and drives drunk and kills somebody, you're liable. Yes. But you've chosen as a parent. How is that the book's problem? How is that the Budweiser company's problem? Because you've chosen to give this to them. I mean, Dave, bad capper selling picks not regulated. That's not betting. That's selling fake information. Not the same thing. Still got to go make the bet. not the information, right? You can be told bad information all the time. Stock market, bad information. Like, that's information trading. Different conversation. I do think there should be some type of conversation about handicappers. I'm with you on that. We should not have boiler rooms, and we should not have people doing very nasty things when it comes to handicapping. I'll give you that. I've been on the record saying I want handicappers to be licensed. I still think that. But that's not about the online sports betting situation that we're talking about. The article had even more ridiculous things in it about bankruptcies, saying among states that have legalized sports betting apps, bankruptcies are up by 30,000 a year per a USC-UCLA study in progress. A second study from Northwestern found that 8% of households in legal gambling states were wagering on online sports books, and that every dollar spent in those apps cost households double in net worth losses. Yes, those studies do exist, but they're also in the process of being put out to pasture, as the authors failed to include a study from Seton Hall, which all but debunks the above studies, which we have discussed at length here on this show about the fact that there is no correlation between bankruptcies and legalized online sports books, because it was all anecdotal. If anybody decided to take the fucking time to look, because I blew it apart just on face value and said, what are we talking about? Are you seriously telling me that you think that because legalized sports gambling exists, that bankruptcies are to blame? That online sports gambling is to blame for those bankruptcies to go up? That there's nothing else going on in those states that could lead towards higher bankruptcies? That credit card debt and inflation and the economy and unemployment and underemployment and all the things happening. But no, let's blame betting. That online sports betting is the reason for this. Really? Because I think anybody with a brain could tell you, yeah, no, that's not why. That's not the reason. It is unbelievable to me. And we've talked about this on BVB for years now, that these companies, these online platforms are allowed to write this clickbaiting shit to get grandma, mom, and sisters and women and people that don't understand on the men's side of things, that online sports gambling is the devil. That online sports gambling is to blame for all of the ill wills going on in America, and that this is just an awful practice. And I get it. There are dangers everywhere. But let adults do adult things, and let this go and be something that we can talk about with proper information and proper facts, versus blaming online sports gambling for all of these problems and then not understanding something as basic as revenue versus handle. And if you can't get that right, if you can't report that accurately, your entire article, the entire premise, all of it is bunk. Do better. Please, Rolling Stone, do better. Jeff Edelstein, bravo. I may even bring Jeff on. I don't know if I need to, though, because it's just so good. It's just, that article was, he did it all. Jeff did it all. Ingame.com. Go read that article because he absolutely takes it apart. It's great to see. Needed. Much needed. Favorite thing about today. For me, favorite thing about today, well, look, I really, really, really want to get healthy for my shoulder. So you guys have seen that I haven't been wearing this, but this week I get cleared. Hopefully, if not today, on Thursday, I get cleared to actually start to work out again. And I don't know how you guys are when it comes to this stuff, but I have been, look, a lot of really bad things have happened in my life over the last couple of months. And Dave is by far the worst, but there's been some other things that have happened as well that are pretty scary. Personally, for me, things have not been good. And so what I tend to do when I'm in one of these situations where the world is sort of gray and dark and I'm not happy, I tend to pour myself into workouts. And the fact that I cannot do that and I have not been able to do that has absolutely affected my mental health. And I am so ready for my physical therapist to tell me, you're good. Go ahead. You can start. All he's cleared me to do is to walk for like a mile. He's like, you can walk for like a mile, but I don't want you to walk all that heavily. Like, I don't want to see you sweating is basically what he said. I don't want you sweating. I just want you to go and just move the body and get it around. I'm done with the sling. I was supposed to wear the sling until Thursday. I'll wear it today to physical therapy to act like I've been wearing to like pull a fast one on my physical therapist. But like, I'm done with it, and I'm sick to death of wearing it. And 6 weeks was supposed to be the limit. 6 weeks is coming up on Thursday. That is 6 weeks in surgery. So, it's been a very, very difficult 2 months leading up to the surgery. Then the surgery, the fallout from the surgery, Dave's funeral, all the things that have just been, it's been an absolute shit 2 months. And so I need, I got family issues. I got personal issues. There's a lot of things happening in my life behind the scenes right now that are really complicated and really, really difficult. And it's when the shitstorm starts, it just keeps pouring. And it's been that way for the last couple of months. And so I am very excited to get cleared, to be able to go back to the gym, to be able to do the things that I want to go ahead and do, because, there needs to be therapists going on and like, just say, go, Matt, you're good. And then I can go do what I need to do. Because God darn it, do I need to go in here to get in just a routine, just to get back to what I used to be able to do. And I haven't, ever since I fell, even before I fell in June, when I fell on the stairs in June, I really hadn't been working out all that much. Because I had been, I knew I was going away for the summer, and I was traveling to New Hampshire a ton. And so like I was out of my workout regimen, out of my workout routine. So the last time I probably did a real workout was April, probably somewhere around there is when I really got back. I was April, May. So now it's time to get going. Now it's time for me. June, July, August, September, October. It's been 5 months. And in those 5 months, I can feel, I can see, I know a change that has happened in me. And granted, it's understandable. Fell down the stairs, tore my pec, I was gone for basically the whole month of July, then went to Scotland, then came home, then had surgery. Dave died, and then everything else happened in the wake of Dave's death. It didn't stop. When Dave passed 2.5 weeks ago, it didn't stop. Inside those 2.5 weeks have been, shitty, really, really shitty. So, it is I'm always honest with you guys, and I'm always telling you guys the truth. And this show has been therapeutic for me in so many different ways. And, I was deeply missing Dave yesterday, and I was texting with Jessica about it and saying these are the times that I would be on the phone with Dave till 2:00 in the morning, and he'd be talking me off the ledge, or he'd be giving me advice, or he'd be explaining what he thinks was going to happen, or he would walk me through what I would do next. Cause I have some pretty big life decisions I got to make, and I have some things impacting my family that are significant. And so, it was always like big brother time for me, where I would be on the phone with him. And then, so not having him, I feel a little lost, without having that person. Cause then I'd come on the air here, and during, favorite thing about today, I'd be in there and I would have this, big conversation. And Jimmy, yeah, you guys don't know. I'll explain more in a little bit as to like what I'm going through right now. Cause it's just not, I'm in the middle of it. And so I don't really want to talk about it yet, but I will at some point in the near future. I'll talk about it, but there's a lot. It's been a lot. I'm not going to lie. It's been a consistent thing that every day it's like, okay, what now? What now? Okay. How am I going to handle this? How am I going to handle that? So when it comes down, I'll obviously come back and we'll do a whole conversation about it. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being in the Discord channel. Thanks for being a part of the brigade. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of the show, because it's extremely important for me to keep rolling with this. Yeah, it's called perpetual shit. Yes. Every day. Same shit, different day, right? Back tomorrow, talking more sports. Let's go Brewers. Get me a W, please. Come on, Milwaukee. Stay alive for us. Brewers hopefully win. We'll recap it all coming up tomorrow on the Wednesday. No Adam Bjorn. He's on Thursday. Thanks to Bill Bender from the Sporting News coming on. Missed any part of the conversation, go back and watch it. Like, subscribe, tell somebody about the show. If you listen on the audio podcast, subscribe to the audio podcasts where you guys get podcasts. We're back tomorrow for a Wednesday's BVB.